And today we're going to talk about,
Ghastly guests.
yes, we should have done it during Halloween. Anyway, yes, so we have had some experiences with ghastly guests coming to your home.
Yeah, in fact, I have a new one that I haven't told you about yet either.
Uh-oh.
But
Scary.
it's said that the best guest is the one who knows when it's time to leave.
Yes, yes.
And Benjamin Franklin also said that guests, like fish, start to smell after 3 days.
There you go. There you go. Yep.
So living in Arizona like we do, I mean, it's a desirable tourist destination.
Yeah.
People love to come here.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they, if you've got a friend or relative out of state, well, can I come stay with you for a few days?
I know.
They want to impose on you. And I mean, I get it because nobody's wealthy
Right.
and stuff.
They,
but
yeah.
sometimes a surprise is not welcome.
Yeah.
So, take responsibility for yourself, make arrangements for yourself. If your friend or relative in the desirable tourist destination offers, then, without
Yeah.
you saying, can I stay there? Then,
Yeah.
that might be a better way to go about it.
Yeah, with those options. One thing I don't know if we're, I know we're going to touch on some different things, but the one thing that I find interesting, this is actually 5 to 7 years ago. My father's like 85, his wife is 7 years younger than him. And I was there, they live on this beautiful lake up in northern Minnesota, biggest lake in Minnesota, and it's so far across that you can't see the horizon, so
Wow.
it's like ocean. And I, coming from Arizona, it's so beautiful to be up there and hanging out with them. And my dad has a car that he shows, so he, the first day I was there, we go to a car show, okay, stay overnight. Next day I'm there, we go to another car show, stay overnight. And I got up the next morning and I thought, I just want to hang. It's so beautiful. They have the windows open. Can't do that here. It's gorgeous. I would really like to just sit and hang, watch TV with them. I don't really care what they want to do. And I walked out into the room and my dad said, so when do you leave? And his wife said, yeah, I got to pay my bills. And so I turned around and went back in and packed and went to Minneapolis, stayed with my girlfriend, because it gets them out of their routine. They feel the need to entertain you, even though I wasn't asking for that. I didn't need that. But they feel like they need to. And so I'm starting to realize that I think with my folks, visiting them for a half hour is probably more than enough. Yeah. In fact, my little brother has twin, a boy and a girl, that are, I think they're 14 now, and he said, well, if it's any consolation, they don't like my kids either. I was like, okay, that's not much of a consolation, but I understand. I remember my grandparents getting frustrated with me when I was in town, and I said, can I stay with you guys? And they're like, oh, okay, and you could just see the look on their faces was one of anguish.
Now I've got to figure out what I'm gonna,
where
I'm gonna put stuff.
Yes, where I need to go, and I've always set my stuff in that room. Now I got to redo it. I will say it's a great way to clean your house when you know somebody's coming. You actually will clean things that are probably holding the house together. So be really careful with that. But yes, so I use that as an excuse. If I have somebody coming over, I just
Start cleaning.
start cleaning and make it happen. So do we have any other words of wisdom?
Well, speaking of teenagers, so I've moved into my mom's house, as I've said in other videos, but every other weekend, my brother's family would come over and visit, and we'd eat and all that stuff. Well, we're trying to keep up with that while my mom is in the hospital, trying to keep up with that tradition. So last week, my brother and his boys came over, and his oldest boy had a soda in a glass and left it sitting on the coffee table when they left. And I didn't find it till the next day. I was like, what the heck is going on here? And so I put it in the dishwasher, and I'm like, does that boy not know how to clean up after himself? Was he born in a barn?
Yeah.
And so I asked my brother, I said, does he do that stuff at home? And he said, oh, yes. He says he forgets about stuff. He'll leave stuff laying around. he'll like eat the last cookie in a package and leave the package there. And one day he spilled stuff on the floor and forgot about it. And his mom came home and said, "Who made this big mess?" So that's another thing to be watchful of when you're a guest in someone's house is clean up after yourself.
Yeah, you really do. I will say one thing about that. I love the family members who say, "Crystal, make yourself at home, whatever." Well, I go to my sister's. My sister has a microwave from Star Trek.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. She's, "Oh, the microwave's right there." And I'm standing in front of it going, "Oh, okay."
Do you wave your hand in front of
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
make it
that's
work?
exactly what I think. I think they actually should have one like that because that would have worked better. But it's digital, and you have to get it going, and it's narrow,
Oh.
like an oven. It's on top of a separate oven, and then there's the microwave is on top of that. I actually went to an appliance place with Jeff, and I showed him one of those. I said, "Oh, here, this is what she has," and he went, "Oh." So I have no idea how to work it. So, I think people should be cognizant of that. That's your home.
Yeah.
They may not know how to do that. I remember my sister introducing me years ago to Keurig. "Oh, here, Crystal, have a cup of coffee."
You're like, how does this work?
Yeah, what? She says, "You've never seen one?" And I said, "No, I haven't. At least not at that point." And so now I have one. Okay, so there, we can just take care of that. But the point is, you can't let people just run amok in your house.
Especially older people, because it could be
Yeah.
even harder for them
Yeah.
to grasp the concept
Yeah.
of these newfangled products.
Yeah, we just don't spend our money on those. She had her whole kitchen remodels at some point, so I think that's where it probably
Oh,
came
well,
in.
there you go.
Yeah, So yeah. So anyway, I just that my aunt and uncle did the same thing to me, and it was so cute because you go to their microwave and they keep all their bread in there.
In the microwave? So it's their bread box. Their fancy electric bread box.
And you feel kind of like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I don't really need to eat that. I mean, in my case, I can go for a long time without eating. It works, and it has to work because oh my goodness, yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, well, another thing too, that like if your travel arrangements are unavoidably delayed, like if you're visiting somewhere where they get snowstorms and the airport's closed and you're staying with someone and they were expecting you to leave, they might have other plans going on. So they may insist that you stay, but the point is you should at least offer to go to a hotel or something,
Right.
And then if they say no, it's fine, stay, then you know that it's okay.
Right.
But don't just assume that it's okay to stay.
Yeah, my girlfriend had people out here from Iowa, and then Iowa got snowed in, and so they were here not only a week, but then they were here another week. And that's quite, I mean, you really do have to wait for those snowstorms to get really cleared out and find another flight and all the people that were trying to get back. And the hard part for her was they were a little judgmental of things that she did or didn't do. They felt comfortable enough to tell her, well, why do you do this and why do you do that? Why do you have this? Why do you have that? It's like, I think we just keep our opinions to ourselves.
Yeah.
Or say something nice. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And I had relatives come over and nobody said anything at all. That was a whole nother issue. I'm not sure. I guess I felt rejected by their silence, because I was sharing things with them and hadn't talked to them and
Got nothing back.
yeah, got nothing back. No feedback, no nothing. So it's interesting, just, the people don't realize what you're putting out there and what's making it more difficult for people. And even when I stay with my girlfriend, she's 4 years older than me. I'm sure it just gets to a point, it's like, Crystal, why do you do the things that you do? I mean, why do you have to sleep on the sofa? Because I like sleeping on sofas instead of beds. And that's a long story. And it just, but I can, and she says, oh no, I'm fine, when I'm with you. So it really does fall on you to determine that, what is the length of your stay? What are you going to do? And that was the other thing too, that my girlfriend, when the people who were here from Iowa, they went everywhere with her because they had nothing to do. They didn't get a car. That was the other thing they didn't do. They didn't get a car, so she had to go pick
Drive
them
them
up,
everywhere.
drive them back to the airport, and then they wanted to go everywhere she went because she was going somewhere, and it gave them something to do. And
Probably drove her insane.
yeah, and she has this beautiful car, newer car. And I don't know if you've noticed on some of mine's an older car and it has this issue where the roof comes down and kind of makes a little alcove. So when you get in, you hit your head on this bar there. The same thing on the floor. It's kind of concave, next to the door. So then you trip getting in and out of that little lip there. Well, her guest was having a lot of problems with that, and she's like, Crystal, what can I can't do anything. And so that's frustrating her more, that there's a constant complaint about her car, and yet you didn't go rent a car, so I don't think you can really complain about that. And what was I thinking about that? Yeah, I was thinking about that with, when you have, that's a whole nother story. Okay. That it's getting bigger in my head. It's going, it's exploding into different places. Go ahead.
Well,
what else have we
on
got?
those same lines, people have their routines, and when you're there, that has upset their routine. And most people, we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
So the sooner we can get back to our routines, the happier we are.
Yeah.
So if you're there for a week and I've just enjoyed this stay so much, I'm going to stay another week.
And now you're calculating everything you can't finish or
Yeah.
get done. Yeah.
So,
it's difficult.
Yeah.
It really is. Well, like I said, I couldn't even go see my grandparents anymore. They're good for an hour. Go away. Can you go now? It's a little shocking. It's kind of like I feel the friends of mine. The friend who moved from Minnesota down to here and decided to live. Well, her parents invited her to live with them, and I think it was very hard for her to come to grips with the fact that it wasn't like moving in with your parents when you were 14 or when you were 25, what they were like, if you had to move back home. Times have changed. Things have changed.
They have changed.
They have changed. And that took about a year, I think, for her to just come to grips with the fact that, wow, it's not the same. And they were in their 80s, So I spend a lot of time with my girlfriends on the phone with, guess what? Your parents are going to change. Oh, I don't know. Oh, yeah, wait and see. And
I don't know. Well, I do.
yeah, that's it. And we were talking about that the parents start repeat things over and over again. They ask you the same questions within an hour.
That short-term memory
Yeah,
starts to
yeah,
go.
yeah. So
it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get dementia or Alzheimer's.
Right.
It's just, it's just part of life that starts to
They
go.
just have to ask, yeah.
And it's always scary at first, because I know for me, and I remembered back to my great aunt, because when my great grandma would ask her the same question, my great aunt would respond in kind of an angry tone, like, I just told you.
Oh,
Blah,
my
blah, blah.
mom did that too with her mother. Yes,
And,
yes.
and I found
remember that.
myself starting to do that with my mom, and then I was like, now I understand why, because it scares you. Mm-hmm. And when you're scared, you kind of lash out. So,
Yeah.
I finally got to the point that I was like, you know what, there's nothing to be scared of.
Yeah.
And I just answered her questions as if it was the first time she asked.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah. That's it. I remember that brought back those memories of my mom. Ma, I already told you that. Don't you remember what I said? And that went on and on and on and on and on. And I don't know what we think we're correcting by doing that behavior, to them.
Well, I think we're trying to grab them back and pull them back into the past when they had, the better memory.
Yeah, when the memory is good.
And you can't. It's just
You just can't.
Just-
you can't.
Just, relax. It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
But we digress.
Yes, we do. We do. And because we're going through those things in our lives.
Yeah.
My girlfriend then moved in with a gal, and they had an extensive conversation on, their habits and their foibles and things. And now these are gals in their 60s. And the one who owns the house, I mean, within a week, she just said it isn't going to work. And
Because the one that owned the house is like OCD or something.
yeah, she's OCD. And my girlfriend, I think her sister might be OCD. I don't know. But she has kind of an aversion to OCD people. And she said that the rug in the bathroom had to lay a certain way for this woman. Now, this is the woman's house. And so she would go in and change it just to bug her. And you can't do that.
And why would you want to do that?
Because she's never lived with somebody who's OCD.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get it. So OCD is a whole nother subject. And she wanted to move in with us, and I said no, because Jeff is OCD. She said, I can't live with OCD. I said, well, Jeff is OCD. She goes, does he know he's OCD? And I said, yes, because I tell him every day that he is OCD. It doesn't matter. They have their ways. They have their foibles. They have their pattern. They have their schedule. And that's the hard thing to explain to her. You know, she lived with people for 41 years, and everything changed, and she didn't change. And we have to, that's what we are talking about right now, is take a second look. Don't assume anything anymore. As if you have aged friends that you are going and imposing upon, guess what? You're imposing on them, whether they will tell you that or not, your grandparents,
Yeah,
whatever.
maybe 20 years ago, they would be like, yes, come stay for the summer. You
Yeah,
know?
stay for 3 months,
But,
yeah.
but they were younger then, and
They were.
more energetic.
Yeah.
And, you just don't know.
And the OCD steps in, and it just...
Well, and to me, I don't know, but to me, it's like, it's common sense to me. If somebody's like, this will drive me crazy unless it's like this, why would you want to drive that person crazy? Because you're just asking them to kick you out.
That's it. I run through the house constantly fixing everything so that when my husband comes home, I don't hear, why is this here? This isn't supposed to be here. Who put this here? Did I put this here? What happened? What did you put it here? Now I've got to answer 14 questions, and honestly, I suffer from decision fatigue. So I suffer from having all the questions asked, and I have not been able to explain to him, I can't do questions. And, because I've gotten used to it now. I'm sitting in the living room, and he comes walking in from the kitchen into the living room, and I can see it. It's like,
Questions are going to start.
what do you want? Yeah, what's going on? Do we have this? Do we know where this is? Can we find it? Well, you don't have to find it right now. Well, yes, I do. Otherwise, I'll forget to go look for it. I mean, I have my foibles as well. And I'm starting to get back to that thing when we worked about putting things away immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And putting them where they're supposed to be instead of just setting them down and thinking, well, I'll get back to it, because that piles up. But sorry, we digress yet again. Okay.
Well, I think the most important thing to remember when you're someone's guest is this little saying that I came up with, which is, remember, we're always glad to see your back, but we're always also glad to see your back.
Yeah, that's it. And I honestly, I don't know what to say. I haven't gotten to that age yet where it bothers me. My husband's considerably older than me, and I felt kind of bad when my brother and his wife left, and they said, "Oh, come now, Jeff can have his life back." And he was very, very accepting of them coming here, and they actually took his bedroom, and he was fine with that. And it just was more convenient for us than, because they felt like they were really putting us out. They were worried about it. You can't worry about it too long, because they've made a choice. They've made a decision. It works for them. They're going to do that, and this is how it works. And, just kind of go with the flow. Just let them do what they need to do, because that helps with their thought process, and just leave them to themselves, and don't put stuff in any of their spaces.
Yeah. Don't be a ghastly guest.
Yes.
And always remember,
Take care of yourself, because nobody else will. Have fun vacationing.
Yeah.